Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and this is February 28th. I better remember that, February 28th. We had started briefly because of our discussion on once Beth came and we had I thought a pretty good discussion on what we are actually doing as a committee. We didn't get very far. But on my notes, we had started with the enumeration of powers, C204. I show that as page C7 in my hard copy. And we got to the end of that first paragraph on that page was we changed to wit to but not limited to, because there's quite an extensive list after that of things that the council is can take action on. And one of the other good things that we talked about was Steve is going to work on a glossary of terms so that we can use that to shorten and make more concise the wording of that. And Steve, have you by any chance taken a stab at any of that?
There's a few terms that I've already circled and started to see some crossover or even conflicts with some of the terminology in code. So I'll start sharing that as we go through this.
Okay, that sounds good.
Well, I did you see the note that I sent to you and Peter? I'm not sure what the right communication vehicle is.
Sorry?
To me, Beth?
No, I sent it to Pete and to Wally, I believe.
You've seen an email from Beth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that came right after you sent
Just-
an email.
I don't know what the right way is to communicate back and forth. I'm going to just reiterate my concern and then I'm going to leave it so that you guys can move forward. I think that I don't know what the legal definition is of an amendment versus a revision. And the town attorney specifically said he did not pursue that. He doesn't know where that line is. He specifically said that in his memo.
That's incorrect, Beth. He did say that this would be defined as an amendment, not a revision.
In the document that I have, it says the existing, once the charter, where is it? I have this note here. I have not reviewed when a series of amendments constitutes a revision. So he hasn't defined what the difference is. And I don't know how they're defined in the state statute.
Well,
And I think that's worth,
if I recall.
but if you guys are comfortable with what you're doing, that's fine.
If I recall our last conversation, we will be passing off our work to the people who are going to have to decide on how to make the firm and final changes. So this is more an advisory position. So I don't want to spend a lot of time with us just discussing that type of thing, because it's going to have to be discussed by the council and the council's committee, the next person that takes the work that we do and makes the adjustments or not that they want to make.
So won't the final outcome be sent to a town attorney anyway for
No.
review?
The process to do a revision is different than the process to do an amendment. And the town attorney has said it's not clear to him when you cross that line. He hasn't researched that.
Yeah.
When we're finished making our review and have recommendations, that's when we'll know. We can speak to the attorney or other attorneys that are more familiar with this, and they can tell us what process we need to take moving forward from there. But until we have any recommendations, it's hard for us to know if it's an amendment or a revision. We don't have anything yet.
Okay, I have said my piece.
And you can't see it, Steve, but there's some head shaking yes going around the table here. So that's good. This is quite a list. Just out of curiosity, I had underlined dealers and secondhand merchandise. Is that a licensed function in Millinocket, or is that a regulated?
Junkyard.
Does anyone know? I mean, there's several secondhand shops and
There are
Yard sales.
2 or 3 thrift stores.
I think
I guess if it's not a problem, no one's.
they fall under regular businesses, I guess.
Okay. I was just curious. When I read that and I thought, wow, that's a.
They've come up in status since back in the day.
Where are we starting at D?
Well, we had got halfway through C is the problem. If you go to page C8 in section C,
Okay.
basically what it is a list of
Yeah, I would think instead of having listings like that, you could have generalized terms, meaning basically any type of business, whether it's nonprofit, governmental, any kind of corporation, any kind of business activity.
Well, that's why on the previous page, we change the language to say included but not limited to. It keeps it open. These are some of the things that are listed, but by saying that, it could be anything.
yeah. And I think in terms of like the Airbnb discussion. If this were the solid list, I don't know where that would come in. It still needs to be discussed.
Well, I think that's more of a code thing. If we have any kind of permits or anything that's required, that would be in code. But that's why, if we say included but not limited to, it includes anything we would have any kind of permits or business licenses for in code.
Right, and I think we, if I remember right, we kept lodging houses, but we striked, of 4 lodging rooms or more, so we kind of identified any lodging houses, no matter the rooms or size.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I had that one.
And that was another term that I was gonna offer a suggestion on how to define it. So it's consistent with code.
So Steve, what would it be to be consistent with code rather than lodging houses of 4 lodging rooms or more?
Yeah, we'd have to look at the terminology in code because I'm sure it makes reference to this. I haven't looked at that yet. That's why I circled it.
Okay.
I know that it makes reference to at least a few different kinds of lodging. And so I think we should just have a broad umbrella term like lodging houses that could apply to basically anything that includes lodging, and then have more specific definitions. For example, short-term rental, long-term rental even, bed and breakfast hotels. And some of those are defined through the state anyway. So as long as they're all consistent, but can maybe fit under an umbrella. That's kind of the goal.
Mhm. Let's see. Do we have dance halls and circuses in town anymore?
Any place.
Does a town council count as a circus?
I can
I'm just
vouch for
kidding.
that.
Mm.
No, but that used to be common. There used to be carnivals. When I was a kid, there was a carnival in town every year.
Oh,
It was wicked fun.
yeah, Smokies. Smokies.
Okay,
Moving onward.
we'll move onward to section D.
This is actually an area that I think is probably the entire reason this
Review.
committee was formed in the first place.
Mhm.
And this was something that I had written a suggestion on. And we'd again have to check with legal to make sure it would all be appropriate. But I was going to add on to this and say something along the lines, I don't have the language written out yet, but along the lines of the council shall also have the power to place any department head on leave until an investigation is complete.
Would that be paid leave?
I would like to keep it open, just leave.
I would think if we did paid leave, it would be kind of getting into the authority of the manager where, you know, it's budgeting for the department as well as punitive. And,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't be our authority.
In fact,
So I would say paid leave would be appropriate.
I suspect that any interference with department heads that doesn't involve the direct action of the council might not be legal under our charter.
We have the right to investigate department issues.
Says right there.
Not
to do.
personnel, you know, so in so doing, we should have the authority to put the department head
Someone on leave.
on leave, paid leave, I would say. And that, you know, that would be just exempt employees, so we're not getting into the
The union issue.
yeah, exactly. But I would think that wouldn't be a bad thing to be able to do, because if you recall that whole issue that we went through with the police department, we had half the town in the main street all the time.
Yeah,
And to not be able to at least address that issue at that level. And back then, I felt it was a department issue, but we were against the grain on that for too long. But by the time we get to realize it was a department issue, we didn't get any action done.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of where our hands were tied, because personnel issues, we really couldn't do anything about it whatsoever. And there was an investigation of sorts going on. It wasn't our direct investigation of the department. And I feel like if we had the ability to do exactly what I'm suggesting here, and I don't want to speak too much to that, because obviously it's a legal issue that's still ongoing. So I think we should, you know, be careful of what we discuss here. But I feel if any other situation arises where we may not have such a competent manager as we do right now, that we will want to have the ability to investigate ourselves. And if there is a member of that department that is potentially roadblocking anything that we may find or make the investigation difficult, I think it would be reasonable that we have the authority to put that person on leave until our investigation is complete. There could be
Agreed.
retaliatory, you know, issues. There could be all sorts of issues of concealing things or whatnot. Not implying that anyone did or didn't do anything, but those are potential issues that could come of a departmental issue.
Yeah.
But clarifying it within the code would definitely save you guys from headaches in the future. Yeah.
And that's if it's legal. It may not be,
Yeah.
but I think at least writing down an intent like this and then running it by legal, they may have other suggestions that may result in the same intent, but not particularly this language or something.
Well, if we made it paid leave, it'd be less likely to be an issue.
Well, yeah, it would be interesting to see what Maine Municipal has to say about it. I mean, I would share your frustration. Had I been on the council, I would have been frustrated to death while all that was going on. But at the same time, if with a whole other council in the future, if young Wally Paul decides that he'd like to get rid of the head of the town department because my cousin would do so much a better job, you know, that kind of opens the door towards interference that shouldn't be allowed either. I mean, there's two sides to that coin, and I don't know how to protect the town, which the town needs protection from not being able to do anything, but also the employees and the manager needs protection from being coerced at the same time.
And that's the reason for the investigation and the paid, using the terms on paid leave might be what's needed there.
If you went with paid leave, you wouldn't be causing any punishment or any harm. It's not saying anything. It's just getting the person out of the way, out of the picture, while the investigation that the council already has authority to do goes
Right.
on.
That was a
Yeah.
frustration of the citizens, that the terminology in here is that, you know, the town, that the council does have the power to investigate. And a lot of citizens were thinking that meant they had the authority. And that's what they wanted, the town council to be able to have the authority to do something.
Yeah, and Wally, I get your point. I think the situation you described is a little different than if the council as a whole did an investigation of a department. In that case, I feel it would just be the department head
And
rather than a single employee, and it would take the full council to agree to that.
either way, the council still, no matter what they investigate, does not have the authority to punish. It's still up to the manager to decide whether or not to keep that person on. So all the council could do is investigate and present their findings.
That's right.
That's all we can do now. And that's all that's where we're gonna keep it. We're not gonna step into that authority of the manager.
Okay. Well, I'm actually with you on this, but I feel like our role is to play devil's advocate when we see it.
Well,
And again, this is,
the lawyer will be
we're
having
running the
some say.
flag up and someone else can decide whether they want to salute it or not.
Right, exactly.
Steve, read that sentence to me again, if you would. I'm gonna write it down.
Okay. It's just a rough sketch here, but the town council shall also have the authority to place any department head on paid leave until an investigation is complete.
Okay, all right. That is something that will have to be examined legally, as you've said, so, but that, we definitely want to capture it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it may open a whole can of worms that we don't even know about and other legal implications. I think we would have the authority, but it may open up a whole host of other legal issues that we aren't aware of at this moment. Obviously, select boards have much more leeway when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it's definitely possible, but we would also potentially open ourselves up to a host of other issues.
But it's also a tool that you need. I mean, that was circumstances where your hands were tied. I never reached out to any counselors during that, but boy, I was feeling your frustration.
We're still talking about the,
Yeah,
okay.
We're gonna include it.
I'm gonna include his sentence in that, and then that'll have to be discussed and reviewed when it comes time to
Sure.
do it. So
And what's the sentence?
that's letter D. I'll send an email with the, as it was and with the proposed corrections on all this stuff.
Okay.
But the town council shall also have the authority to place any department head on paid leave until investigation is complete. Okay.
That really limits the number of people that are, and they're exempt people. So. I think that has it. And there's no punitive punishment, really.
That may well be the most interesting thing that will be taken
Discussed.
up by whoever decides to, however this process.
Oh, sure.
takes it.
I can see it being a point of concern.
Bone of contention.
Well, I'm, and that I feel is, in the wheelhouse of the manager, and it's unfortunate that,
We don't
whatever
have-
previous situations were, had led to this train of thought, but
We'll have an anecdotal testimony by the time that happens.
sure, sure.
Yeah,
And it doesn't necessarily all come down to the manager anyway. There could be other circumstances that would cause an investigation to be done by the council, and it could be done in cooperation with the manager.
Right. Yep.
But
no,
either way, to have that authority. Yeah.
I follow, I'm just stating that, it's unfortunate.
and I don't know if you were here, but I raised that point.
Oh, sure.
All right, adopt land survey maps. I don't know how you change that. It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a few on that.
Yeah, add on some taxable stuff. Okay, adopt and modify official map of the town.
I have a question about that.
Yeah,
With the proposed development of some affordable housing, is there anything we have to address as far as adopt and amend any land survey maps as needed, or I don't know.
Ended the town back, a while back.
Yeah, the town map would basically stay the same, and can be revised though through the planning board, which could act as the official map.
Okay.
Putting up streets.
or when I was a kid and I used to explore in the woods, there was a whole set of streets laid out between Warsaw Street and the airport. And I know this because I pulled up a lot of the stakes because I used to play out there and I didn't want them building any place where I played. And then there was a whole other set of streets up past the water tower
Yeah, new
that
development.
went out there that were, I thought those would have been nice if there had been a need. So,
Yeah, I think those are some of the options at play for
opening up.
some of the new projects, those end up towards Ferguson up there. So I think those plans are still
Viable.
available. Yeah, I think they're an option. But you're not using that land for playing anymore?
No.
No, okay.
I'll let them know.
Now I've switched to playing the guitar on the couch.
Sure.
So it's like, I don't get out there as much as I used to. But yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a ton of stuff that the town is gonna have to consider. Especially if they build within, like sewer and water and
Yeah,
I mean,
pump
there's
stations,
just-
whatever, yeah.
it'll be that's gonna be a big project for the town. So,
Right.
Or out comes in handy. Infrastructure.
Now, this next section, I know that when talking about housing availability, there's been a few times where building up has been a suggestion, and I wonder if this is a point in G here where that could be directed to.
Mhm.
I think zoning has.
Yeah, that would all be laid out in zoning.
I think
Yeah.
zoning has 30-something feet.
when,
All of these points just give us the authority to do things, but it doesn't spell out what it will be,
Right, okay.
Planning board would have to change what you want to change.
or at least recommend that to the council.
Just
yeah,
saying that was one of the things I had heard, so that's, thank you for making that more clear.
I think those are fine the way they are.
yeah.
Yeah, that all looks great.
Oh, I has been quite an issue for the
Yes.
town.
I flagged
And
that. when I was
especially the
reading
code
through it,
enforcement
too.
officer. Maybe this is a place where we should give the authority to the council to set some fines or whatever. 'Cause it doesn't say anything about, no teeth as far as how to enforce it.
And probably gonna have to be defined better too. I mean, the blighted area. If a house burns and it just stays there in a burned out shell for the rest of the time, that's a problem, But on the other hand, if the house is junked out, and we have one on my street, irritates me every time I walk by it, and I feel bad for the neighbors, especially on either side. I'm not sure how you would, it's a problem for me, but I'm not sure how you would define that as a problem that somebody can go and deal with and say, fix this,
Well, it seems like other towns have definitely, been able to enforce this.
I think that, again, zoning should be the detailing of what constitutes what. Whether it's a blight or a junkyard or whatever. And this should be a general comment saying we have the authority to have the authority to clear the areas.
Well, there's been a few issues up until this point with this particular problem. One is the process that we have to go through and the cost to the town to go through it and the amount of time. Basically, the way that things are right now, we have to take them to court. And it could take months of sending notices and paying all sorts of legal fees on our end just to take them to court and deal with the issue. And it may not even always go in our favor, especially with the way that it's spelled out in code right now. So our former code enforcement officer, I know, had mentioned that he was working on this. I've heard that for a number of years and I haven't seen any suggestions yet. But that's definitely some area that we would need to, in the code, not the charter, but in the code, update this very issue so that we have enough teeth to go after some of these property owners who are experiencing, blight and slum and issues like that, junkyards.
I suppose it's saying carry out plans proposed by the planning board.
Right, it's pretty general, yeah.
Yeah, that fines could be part of something that they would bring up for us to authorize.
Right, the planning board could propose that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I suspect that there are enough towns who have dealt with this in a way that we would find satisfactory, that you're not gonna have to reinvent the wheel to make it happen. I bet we could find something that's already been legally tested and won and
Tony's really good about
adopt that.
looking at other communities.
That's right.
I don't know if that would fall in 204 section I or not. I don't think so.
So do you think it'd be worthwhile just adding a general comment about the ability to find them? Because if we can get these properties fined, for reoccurring and not cleaning up after a certain amount of time, then you've got lien rights to that property.
If we could add remedy to the list of adopt, modify, carry out plans proposed by the planning board
For the clearance.
and for the clearance of slum districts. So
Do we want slum districts or do we just want to say?
We don't have districts yet, so.
Yeah.
But we have spotting, junkyard spotting.
They are
Like spots on-
dispersed throughout. That's for sure.
matter of fact, how about this? Adopt, modify, and carry out plans proposed by the planning board for the clearance of slum districts and rehabilitated of blighted areas and housing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to suggest something similar.
residences.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
basically starting on the second line, planning board for the clearance, comma, delete of slum districts. So take out of slum districts, clearance, comma, rehabilitation and or remediation of blighted areas and or properties. Because a property could be, as we saw downtown, commercial, not a house. That is, so properties.
yeah.
So for the clearance, comma, rehabilitation, rehabilitation and or remediation of blighted areas and or properties.
You need a definition of blighted area.
That is correct.
Okay.
Could
so
be an
clearance,
undeveloped lot somewhere.
so clearance, rehabilitation, and remediation.
And or remediation.
Remediation of blighted areas.
And or properties.
So remediation can be broad too. That could deal with pollution issues or other things that,
Yeah, mitigate the problem they've got going on.
right.
And then we would have circled blighted areas for
Correct.
to be defined.
Yeah. But I think this goes with
Could be
what we
undeveloped
stated
land.
is our mission, in that we're putting out there areas that need to be addressed, and here was our immediate thinking on it. And you want to fine tune it and
Oh, yeah.
make it more legally viable, whatever. Yeah.
Zoning could spell out fines and whatever. Yeah, Jay is what we're talking about, new housing streets. As you said, we never fully developed the ones that we've had mapped in the past. Wonder if back in the day when they were talking districts, if they meant like Little Italy, the district, the Pines,
Yeah, maybe.
new development.
New development,
Yeah.
yeah.
How far
Well,
back to those dates?
but you ask people in California, and this is on their mind, because whole towns have been burned right flat.
Yeah,
Oh,
And
yeah.
we are a good drought in a dry summer and a few lightning storms away from that ourselves, I mean, when you are surrounded by woods, that's not out of the question,
yeah. Hopefully we never get the winds and the situation they have in California.
I know. But Bar Harbor burned, not in my lifetime, but just before.
Mhm.
Bangor had a big
In 49, that place burned down. You can have neighborhood
Cities.
catastrophes.
Well, I got no changes for
Yeah,
that section.
okay, provide for the annual audit.
Point blank.
On to C 205.
Yeah.
All right, here's where the money hits the road.
Yeah, it's already been updated elsewhere. I believe right now counselors get 1,200 and the chair gets 1,600. Is that right, Louis?
I don't think so. I think the chair gets less, at least on an hour basis.
Well, I'm doing my taxes right now, so I'm looking at the paper. But do you get 1,200 though, Louis?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
If you get 1,600, you're welcome to it.
Well, I just wanted to get clarification for this.
Okay, so that is already not by code.
Yeah, we should just leave the amounts out because it's set up by an order. It's been,
Oh, by ordinance, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Leaving the amounts out makes more sense. Because it will change.
Yep. Not my lifetime.
Well, if,
I think it should be based on how helpful the counselors are.
And who's the arbiter of that?
yeah,
I think it should be,
like, where is Charlie Gray anyway?
work now, pay later.
Yeah.
How about we change some of that rule?
Yeah, it comes at the end of the year instead of the beginning.
So why don't we just change this to basically counselors shall be compensated. And then delete almost everything down to where it says by ordinance.
Yeah, by order shall fix the salaries of officials selected. All the way down to the last paragraph.
Yep. Counselors shall be compensated by ordinance. And then it can just, the rest can stay the same. The town council by order shall fix the salaries of officials elected by the council, including the salary of the town manager. All that could stay the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's deleting all the way down to,
By ordinance.
Last sentence.
okay, yeah. Okay, I see.
Okay. So we could change that, make the first sentence, counselor compensation will be determined by ordinance.
Period. This whole section.
I mean, yeah, that's basically what I offered. I just said counselors shall be compensated by ordinance.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
An ordinance should have a capital O and
Yeah,
be defined somewhere else as well.
and that we had talked about as a continuing.
Yes.
Order and ordinance.
And then we have, is her to there, which is an ongoing.
Say that again?
I think we had decided anywhere in the document where. it
Oh,
defined
yeah, his or hers
him,
to there,
just-
yeah.
I think the last sentence of that section should be included there. Maximum salaries of appointees of the town manager shall be fixed by the town council. That should remain.
That is the case anyway.
Yes, but stated here.
Yeah, and actually, we don't even have to put there or them. The town council order shall fix the salaries of officials elected by the town council, including the salary of the manager for services as such and for other services rendered, period.
So take out his or hers, what you're saying.
Take out his and hers and take out by him. That, I mean, that's a.
Looks good to me.
Mm.
We good to go to the next section?
Yeah.
Peter, I think these were your notes on here before, right?
No, that was an inherited copy of somebody else's notes.
Oh, okay.
But I think that this, yeah, aside from those suggestions that I see on my photocopy as well, counselor, instead of councilman, but I think this all pretty well can stay as it is.
Yeah, other than the counselor.
Yeah. Take the gender out of there.
Are you looking at subsection C 206,
Yes.
induction into office?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So the times of the meetings and such are different.
Yeah, on 2 occasions.
I think we've been practicing that 7 o'clock, haven't we?
Yeah.
No, for this meeting specifically. We've been practicing 7 PM.
Yeah, for those 2 meetings after the election, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's a good time in case, it conflicts with anyone at work or anything.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Onward.
I'm fine with that section myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
The
207,
207.
yeah.
Too late.
In the fourth sentence of 208, and shall meet regularly at last once a month. That should be at least once a month. I think that was just a mistype.
Yeah.
So previously I had underlined this next sentence, starting with it shall, that it needs to be updated.
How so? What were you thinking about?
I just think it needs more clarification of how we're going to provide a method for calling the special meetings or making it known to the public.
Well, that's why they have the reference to the state statutes.
Well, the state statutes deal with being open to the public, not necessarily calling special meetings.
Oh, yeah. No, that. I mean, imagine if council decided they wanted to do something, something underhanded sometime in the future. And said, oh, we're gonna open the meeting to the public. It's at midnight in the manager's office tonight,
Mhm.
I mean, that
Is there a policy?
legally that,
Is there a policy for notifications of meetings or not?
Special meetings are different.
Right. I think
Regular meetings are adopted at the beginning of the year typically.
I recall there was something somewhere about a 24-hour notice or something.
I think that's for executive session.
Well, those are open special meetings.
We could always say,
It says all meetings of the town council shall be open to the public. Doesn't say except for special meetings. It says all meetings.
well, that would include special meetings.
Yeah. So then needs to be notification in a manner that people have time to plan to be able to be there.
Well, this is certainly an area where we have friction against
yeah.
practice against what is the goal.
And we also have to be careful too. if there's something that requires immediate action, like Steve finds out, Steve finds out. He's calling you, I keep wanting you to be your father, sorry. Be more like your father. That-
Oh, no, we don't want that.
No, well, yeah, no, maybe not.
Kidding, kidding.
Now I'll call you Louis instead. You like Louis. But if there's something that requires immediate action, like we really have to deal with this right now. We really have to do it. Everyone get down here, please, and let's talk about this. We don't want to be saying, well, no, we can't do that. We gotta wait a week till it's been in the newspaper and stuff, you know, we gotta be careful about what we're,
Tying ourselves to.
what change we're putting on it too. I mean, as a rule, you don't want secret meetings and you don't want things going on that the public isn't completely privy to. But at the same time, if some sort of poisonous thing is happening at the fire station and our firefighters' lives are at risk and we need to do something about it right now and it requires the council to say so, you gotta do it. You gotta get right in there and do it and say so.
Yeah, I think the public understands that, but they also would like to have advance notice when it's not an emergency. So a 24 to 48 hour window is reasonable.
It may not be reasonable. There's actually state statutes for
Emergency.
holding emergency meetings. So I was going to suggest maybe we could change this to it shall call special meetings in accordance to state statutes and common and reasonable practices.
There, that works for me. That works for me.
Do something for the lawyers to litigate. Like it.
So I can read that again. It shall call special meetings in accordance with state statutes and common and reasonable practices. How do you feel about that, Sherry?
Yeah, I think it keeps it open enough to, well, it's going to keep it open enough for people to say what designates common and reasonable. So for some people, they might want a week and some people might want 24 hours notice, you know, depending on.
I'd like to see a sentence in there about notice shall be made by all media outlets currently used by the town administration.
Mhm.
What was that, Louis?
Notice shall be made through all media outlets currently used by town administration.
I don't know if I would include something like that.
I know why you would.
I would like that.
What? Wait. The only reason I say that is because obviously we're using a weekly paper. If we're trying to hold an emergency meeting because there's a disaster, I mean,
Oh, emergency
you know,
meeting wouldn't, this wouldn't be for a notice for an emergency meeting because of 7 days and all of that. This would be for just all committee and regular meetings.
no, committee meetings are not meetings of the council.
They're public. So
They're not council meetings.
notices for all public meetings is what I'm concerned with.
Well, we addressed that in the policy that we just passed this past week, but this deals specifically with meetings of the town council, not committees.
Agreed, but why wouldn't we want to notify the public with the same, through the same Facebook page that you guys have, that same way you're making the other public notifications?
I think there would be some sort of stipulation to, you know, where applicable or where appropriate, you know, just because we do advertise some meetings in the newspaper. However, you know, like it was said, that newspaper is produced once weekly, and there will be times where that's not possible to get in.
Yeah.
You know, and
Or,
to be completely honest, I would say the overwhelming majority of anyone who knows that meetings are being scheduled sees it on our Facebook page. You know, like, on, you know, outside of
Web-based Facebook.
the, you know, the website, the posting internally, you know, in the building here, the newspaper, wherever it may be, you know, Facebook has the,
Medias that you already use.
right.
And I'm just thinking, and Louis, I agree with your intent there. I'm thinking devil's advocate kind of to what Wally Paul said before.
What's it?
You know, I'm thinking worst case scenario, an emergency. If this is after 5 p.m. that we need to schedule something for whatever reason, we won't be able to post it on the website. We may not be able to post it on Facebook because those are managed typically by Design Lab. It won't be able to be sent to the paper because that's something the town clerk does and it's after hours. I just think it's silly to limit ourselves when we're already saying that we'll call these meetings in accordance with state statutes and common and reasonable practices. Obviously, that sets the intent that we're not going to be doing anything unreasonable. We're not going to be doing anything that's against state statute.
I agree with Steve, and I get Louis' point, and I agree with that, you know, that you go with as encompassing a notification as you can make. But if you write it in here, the time's coming when it's going to be a chain rather than a help, you know, it's gonna be an anchor to you when you're trying to, everyone's going, oh my God, this is the nightmare one, this is the bad one, this is the thing we really have got to get going on this. Nope, sorry, you gotta call the newspaper, and it's gotta be on Facebook first. No. You know, in real world, there are occasional times when, you know.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm telling you that the citizens are going to say, why weren't we given notification of this? Why isn't it standard practice to notify the public of meetings?
It is.
It is, but it's not noted in here that they will be notified. How they will be notified.
Yeah,
Well, I just want to be specific though and clarify. We're talking just about special meetings. And I think we've only held maybe two special meetings in the past 4 years. And each one of those we did. Louis, are you talking or am I talking right now? If you want to talk, you can, but just one at a time. I think we've only held two special meetings in the past 4 years, and each one of them we've very amply notified the public. If we add any more terminology to it to be limiting in case of an emergency or something like that, then it would just basically tie our hands unnecessarily. I don't think we've ever in the past at least 4 or 5 years done anything contrary to following, which is why I suggested this, following state statutes and common and reasonable practices. And I think it'll continue to be that way.
Who's to say it's going to be the same when there's a different town council members? I mean, if you have
They
it
would
in
still
here,
be subject to it.
Yeah, you're
This section is for regular meetings as well as special meetings.
yes.
So if you want to limit it, just say notices for regular meetings shall be, notice shall be posted in all currently used media by the town administration.
What if there was a defined, what if there was a definition for emergency, in Sherry, in your suggestion, what if there was a definition for emergency in that case, and that there was, in terms of Louis' point, what if it was further defined to say whatever methods of media outlets, within an appropriate time frame, whatever's feasible at that point in time. Not thinking through how that sentence structure would work, but just adding those two ideas to the thought to bring everyone together.
Not to include meetings. I can't think of the terminology now, but brain dead.
Well, Peter, I think you're right on that. There may be already defined state statutes on this.
I think there is.
I'm sure there are. And there might already be definitions in the code as well on how, not only what a meeting is, we might have emergency meeting definition. I know there is on the state level. I don't know if it applies to municipalities, but maybe we should look into that first and see what's already defined, both in our town and in the state. And then we can come back and see if there's anything missing. Then we can update it to reflect what I think Louis and Sherry are advocating for. Which I agree with. I also don't want to limit it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Does that sound okay to everyone if we look into state and our own local code and see if there's already definitions of this?
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find exceptions for emergency meetings and such.
Terminology for that. Yeah.
And actually that sentence, the last sentence in A says that. All meetings of the town council shall be open to the public in accordance with revised statute. Okay, but if they don't say that.
Yeah, it's not about posting notices.
Well, that's what B is here. Actions that the council shall be posted in town office within a reasonable time. Oh, after it's been taken. Okay.
That's afterwards, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we need a C. Actions of the council shall be posted in the town office and meetings of the council shall be
Planned
posted
meetings. Yeah.
within a reasonable time before the meeting.
Well,
This should probably be another area we reach out to MMA and see what their thoughts are on. I'm sure they deal with this issue frequently of notices.
Because B is about notifying the public of action already taken at a special meeting or emergency meeting.
So could you just add in front of that, planned meetings and actions of the council shall be posted in the town office within a reasonable time? Get rid of after such action has been taken.
So meetings and actions,
Planned meetings
planned meetings.
and actions of the council shall be posted in the town office within a reasonable time frame. Is that open enough?
And
I think so.
like letter C or add it to B or where would put it
B and B,
in B?
yeah.
She's saying add planned meetings and actions.
Yeah.
So right before actions
you just
to
got-
include planned meetings and actions,
and
and then delete after such action has been taken.
Yeah, that would make it kind of awkward because there has to be it says within a reasonable, I mean, it should be in there, but the way we're talking about it, it should be a separate sentence, because actions, reasonable time after, and meetings have to be a reasonable time before. And you don't want to get this before/after or whatever's appropriate. It should be two different sentences, because it's two different things that you're talking about.
I'll follow
See what I'm saying? Just, and we could just add I would say maybe the first planned meetings of the council shall be posted.
In the town office within a reasonable time frame. And then another
Before
sentence.
the meeting, comma, then actions of the council shall be posted in the town office within a reasonable time frame after the action has been taken.
Well, that first sentence talks to notifications of meetings,
What's
which
that
is
now?
what we're discussing before. Your first sentence that you're putting in B refers to notifications that we've already discussed.
Yeah, why don't we just add what you just said to the end of A? So in other words, all meetings of the town council shall be open to the public in accordance with the revised statutes of 1964, Title 1, 401 to 406, and planned meetings of the council shall be posted in the town office within a reasonable time frame.
Well, that's not to preclude making notice of that in all the outlets that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
That is true.
I really think we should just have this whole section reviewed by MMA and tell them of the issue of notifying the public and what they suggest would be the best thing before we cut it up more. Because it could simply just refer to state statute that already exists on this.
That's right. Some towns may have it written better than we have.
So check with MMA on
Public notice.
public notification. Okay.
On both the charter and the code, because we might already have our own policies as well.
Now, how often do we want to be reaching out for this? I'm looking and I'm thinking of, you know, we have a number of, well, I'm using stars, but I have a number of stars in here already. I guess there's 2 or 3 already. This makes 4. How often do we want to do this in batches? You know, should I take what we have right now for requests from MMA and reach out and try to get those answers now for what we have up until today?
No sense waiting and going back.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yep.
They may not be comfortable answering these questions because,
Yeah, maybe some legalese back.
right,
well, but, I mean, we are doing this hypothetically, so you can ask hypothetically if it's a problem for them.
Sure.
You know, we're not asking them to,
Write anything for us.
nothing they're gonna have to go to court and testify on. We're just looking at it theoretically, how to do it. And don't wanna make it quite that frivolous probably, but you know what I'm saying?
Check with a couple of other towns' charters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. I think that's easy enough. I can reach out to some of the other town management folks that
That way they'll get an education on their charters.
Sure.
Now,
Dust it off and crack it open, right?
this is, I'm enjoying this. This is interesting stuff, but it's 5:15. And we are at the next section. Do we want to
We're
go
on fire
on?
compared to the last meeting.
What's that? Yeah, we got a lot done compared to last meeting, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
It's a break.
Do you want to stop here? Or do you want to go on for a little while longer? Or?
I've got to get to a meeting.
I think we ought to give it up and really chew over the chairman next section before we meet.
Okay, I will write up like I did before, that I'll put how it is now and our suggested sentences in it and email that to everybody. So
Sounds good.
have it to look at, and I will also flag the contact the MMA section on it. So it'll be written down in our,
Sure.
because if you guys are like me, by next week, we're on to something else, it's long gone, so.
Yeah, why it's good
I'll
stuff.
be here about 10 minutes from now.
Yeah, so we will start next week with, chair and meetings, and that actually should go pretty well. Go pretty quickly.
And Sherry and Beth, I just want to thank you for your participation here. I appreciate you coming and offering your input.
Thank you. So the next meeting is Monday, the 7th? Or are we doing every 2 weeks? What are we doing?
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth Mondays.
Okay, so the 14th and the 28th. Okay. All right.
14th again.
Yes, and I will send out a notice on the 7th and the 21st,
Okay.
telling everyone, you know.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Hey, everybody.